I'm losing my voice. This is not good. Hello book besties, welcome back to my channel. I'm Emma Sue, a book lover that's always on a binge. Whoa, where'd my voice go? We're back again with another monthly reading wrap up for the month of June. Yes, I know my months. Now we've read quite a bit this month. There were quite a few hits, but a lot of misses as well. So was it a great reading month overall? In terms of quality, maybe not so much. But in quantity, yeah, I was thriving. Otherwise, I didn't really have a good reading month. I was kind of all over the place with my mood reading, so there's that. And the worst thing is, I had no 5-star reads. None. Zero. Looks like I read 17 books, with most of them being on the Kindle, because this is all of the physical copies that I have and read during that month, so it's not much. I was on my Kindle grind, apparently. The first book that I reached for in the month of June was The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig, because it's Rachel Gillig. This came out late in May, so I didn't have time during then to read it. Therefore, I picked it up as soon as I could when June hit. And it did not disappoint. I gave this 4.5 stars. There was just a little bit missing that I needed and didn't get, so it was not a 5-star. But Rachel Gillig is really the queen of gothic romances, especially dark fantasy gothic romances, and she delivers a good slow burn. This follows our FMC Sybil Delling, who is a diviner, and as a diviner she dreams, quote unquote dreams, so that people can find out what their future holds. Now what I didn't know going into this is that when she uses the term dreaming, well, I didn't know it meant she was literally getting drowned in the water and almost like herself in order to get in this like dream-like state. Her whole life she's basically been raised to be a diviner in this cathedral and with 5 other girls, and they're never allowed to leave the area until one day, one night, Mr. Roderick happens to come across her and being the total opposite of a believer. He is in fact a heretic. He does not believe in any of the gods that Sybil and other people in this kingdom preach about. From there, they go on a huge journey because as time goes by, her fellow diviners go missing and now they're on the search as to what is happening. A very great book, very eerie, mystical, magical filled, like amazing. Pick this book up if you're wanting to dip your toe into dark fantasy, specifically dark fantasy gothic romance with a slow burn and tension so high. The banter is bantering as well, and the best part, which you will meet in this, is the gargoyle. I stand by that. And this is a duology as well, so book 2, I'm waiting on you. Next, I continued on to the dark aspect of things and read The Fabric of Souls by Kea Muranova. This is a dark contemporary romance and involves 2 main characters who are tortured souls that end up being roommates in this mental institution. And was that a good idea from the doctors in this mental institution? No, because one of them is trying to unalive themselves and another wants to feel all the pain they could possibly feel physically. A very unlikely duo, but somehow melded each other very well and fall in love. This was quite a deep story with a crazy plot twist and a lot of dark subject matter. So please read your trigger warnings if you want to pick this book up. I was feeling all types of emotions, even to the point of tears because of the topics that they talk about. I gave this book 4 stars. Next, I wanted to pick up a vampire romance book, and I picked up an Education and Malice by Ashley Gibson. I read A Dowry of Blood by her last year, and it was incredible. This one is a sapphic vampire romance. The setting itself is in an academia, and this is a retelling of Carmilla, which actually one of the characters is named Carmilla. She's a very ambitious poetry student that is very well taken with Professor de la Fontaine, who is also a woman. And then one day, Laura, a transfer student, ended up catching the eye of this professor because of her poetry skills. From there, they develop a rivalry of some sort and ends up being a slow burning attraction to one another. You can expect a lot of angst, jealousy, rivalry, as I said, and tension. High tension. I also gave this book 4 stars. Next, I read a new release, The Starfire Prophecy. This one felt very clunky of a story. The premise was great. It had my attention, but the execution fell off quite hard. So hard that I gave it 2 stars. The introduction was very solid. It divided angels, devils, humans, the fallen, and telling us the importance of the prophecy. But at about 30%, it had a stalemate where it more so focused on the romance and the attraction between the female main character and the male main character, rather than telling us more about the world, the magic, how are things run, and we were missing a huge chunk of that. Another big thing about this book that made it a very low rating for me is that there was a lot of repetition. I'm not saying paraphrasing, I'm saying full on copy and paste. Within like 10 pages, the character would literally be saying the same thing to a point of being a deja vu every single time. So I don't know if that was an editing error or intentional. Either way, it didn't click with me. There was no importance to the sentence either, so why repeat it? Anywho, this book was unfortunately not for me. Next, I continued with my journey in the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac by finishing off book 4 and 5, which honestly were the best ones probably in this series, in this 5-book series. Broken Fae I gave 3.75 stars. It was good. I had a good time with it. There was a lot of spice in this one, but the highlight for this book was Lance Orion, young Lance Orion. He made everything so much better. I feared that's the best part. I think the story definitely progressed in this one rather than in book 2 and book 3, which were very slow books for me in terms of plot progression because nothing really happened until this book. And I'm glad that it did. I love the dynamic between our female main character and the 4 male main characters. We finally got to the point of let's share Elise. Like, let's be okay with sharing her. It is a reverse harem, why choose romance? So I'm glad we finally got to a good point in that. Now for the 5th book, Warrior Fae, I gave 4 stars. That one was very entertaining. Like I said earlier, Orion keeps popping up and I just be smiling. And the comedy in this one, freaking hilarious. The pure chaos that goes on in this harem. There were undeniably cringy moments. So this is more of a guilty pleasure book for me. I think it wrapped up the story pretty well. I do wish we had a little more in the end, especially the epilogue. Like, I kind of wanted more out of it. Now, the best part though in this particular book is Gabriel and Ryder. The best bromance I've ever seen. The best chemistry, honestly, between characters is them. I love their friendship. I just want to hug them both, you know? They are the best kings for me and no one can change my mind. They are simply superior. But now that I finished the series, I cannot wait to get back into Zodiac Academy because I'm just gonna eat that up, especially now that I know how it connects to that world. I'm gonna have such a good time, especially if I'm right that this particular male main character is gonna show up in that one from this series. Next, my mood reading self decided to go back to contemporary romances and read Archer's Voice. I teared up with this one. This is a very classic love story with such deep meaning. And I cried my eyes out. It's so lovely. It was truly beautiful. I gave this one 4 stars. The way my emotions went on a roller coaster in the last 20% of this book. I love Archer so much. She is so sweet and caring and loving, and he gets to learn about love with someone that he truly feels comfortable and trusts in, which is Brave. She also has her own traumas and fears in her past life, and they both just have such a strong connection with one another. They love each other so unconditionally, even through their darkest times, and I love them. I just love them. Next, I read another dark fantasy book, and it's called The Dark Birch Academy Ash and Wings, which is the first book in the series. This one was fun. It has witches and dragons in a military academy. Definitely fast-paced in the plot side. The romance is very subplot and is not really the forefront for the first book, but I think in the second book they're gonna explore it more. If anything, the romance in this book leans heavily towards the banter and the tension between the 2 characters. I gave this one 3.25 stars. The interactions between the female main character and the male main character were a bit repetitive at times. It was definitely a lot of, can I trust you, back and forths, you know, like mistrust and all that. So it kind of put me off a bit. The writing also had a bit of repetitiveness in terms of description, such as radiating heat or unwanted shivers. I do wish that the author gave us the male main character's POV in this, because this is only a singular POV. We only get the female main characters, but I would love to know what our male main character is thinking. Overall though, I did enjoy the story and I will definitely be picking up book 2 when it comes out. Next, I read one of the recent book releases, which is Beautiful Venom by Rina Ken. First of all, I know I've shown this a couple times already, but I can't stop looking at the art. This is indeed a dark romance. Now, this was kind of advertised as a dark hockey romance, which I think, if anything, it was just dark romance, period. Because the hockey was useless. It didn't really serve a purpose besides the fact that the male main character just is part of a hockey team. You know, it didn't really venture out into that. You only probably get like 2 or 3 scenes with a hockey game or hockey practice. But otherwise, it's not centered around hockey. So don't be confused with that, because I was confused with that. Also, please read your trigger warnings on this, because chapter 6 put me off. It did. It was a very uncomfortable situation, and that is why it didn't get 4 stars for me. I gave this one 3.5 stars. There were just a lot of moments where I kind of felt irked. I enjoyed that our female main character was headstrong and didn't back down when it comes to going against our male main character. This girl literally left him on red 3 times, and the male main character just could not get her out of his head. He even did horrible in a hockey game because he was thinking about her not messaging him back. Like, I love that. Like, she is a queen for that. And our female main character and our male main character, Dahlia and Kane, they are both very unhinged characters. They have this twisted and chaotic dynamic with each other. And I must say, it was very entertaining to read about. The vibes are vibing with this one. So if you want a dark romance, maybe try this out. Just read your trigger warnings. Next is actually an audiobook of a new release as well. It is Caught Up by Navessa Allen, which is the 2nd installment in the Into the Darkness interconnected standalone series. Now, unfortunately, this one missed the mark for me. I gave it 2 stars. The best part of this book was the cameos that Josh, Allie, and the cats made from Lights Out, and the only times I laughed were because of them. This one felt all over the place because it didn't really have a plot, and it was more so the lustful aspect between the 2 characters and the kinkiness that they both love. And honestly, I think Junior had better chemistry with Josh than he did with Lauren. With that though, I'm still gonna pick up the 3rd book. I simply must know what happens with Tyler and Stella. Next, I listened to a memoir called Beyond the Wand by Tom Felton, my first ever memoir, and it's with Draco Malfoy. It was so great to learn about the backstory of him getting into Harry Potter and the acting gigs that he did before that, how he was when he was younger, and how he was as a person after Harry Potter, what he goes through as a celebrity throughout the franchise. It was so great to know that his family made his childhood as normal as possible throughout the limelight and the life-altering opportunities that he was getting with Harry Potter. It was just all so endearing. Him and his brothers and his mom and dad, like, they were so supportive of him. It was eye-opening to know the struggles that he also went through with having been a child star and a very famous actor as well, with all the pressure of media and the paparazzi. And he talks about his alcohol abuse and the help that he got for it and the therapy that he went through in order to get better, but also to hear about his friendship with none other than our very own Emma Watson, aka Hermione Granger. I swear to you, in another life, they would be together. Next, I read another dark fantasy book, and it is also a new release. It's called Never Run from an Immortal by Victoria J. Price, and it was incredible. I gave it 4 stars. This is a vampire romance, but not just vampires, witches and humans on top of that, and also fays. As a matter of fact, it is a dark fantasy urban romance, and oh, I love it. All the elements of realism was perfectly blended into this fantasy world. I was completely hooked. The magic system itself felt so refreshing, blending technology with deceit and a hierarchy of vampires. This book definitely checked a lot of boxes for me, with slow burn romance, enemies to lovers, marriage of convenience, and forced proximity with 2 morally gray main characters. Our female main character, Ray, is a thief, a creator, and an overall badass. Like, she can hold her own in a fight. Very fierce and feisty, with a mouth to match the attitude. She's always flown under the radar, stealing from unsuspecting vampires, until one day she tries to steal from a vampire lord, Aiden Vale, who has immense vampire strength and abilities. Definitely not someone you want to mess with. They end up striking a very dangerous bargain with one another that can either benefit them both or lead them to destruction. And the banter between the 2 of them, chef's kiss. And don't even get me started on that cliffhanger. Like, absolute jail. I need book 2 immediately. Now this next one did a doozy on my brain cells. Okay, my brain was working on overdrive trying to understand where the plot was going, what this story was even about. It's called The Mercy Makers by Tessa Gratton. This was a very complicated and complex world building. This is a fantasy romance that is very intensely lyrical and heavy on the third person POV that requires full attention to understand. I gave this one 3 stars. This is definitely not for the casual reader. And personally, it wasn't until chapter 8 where things started to click for me as to what was happening. This follows our female main character who is a heretic that challenges the foundations of faith and tradition by using forbidden magic that goes against their beliefs in this world. Her actions basically causes a lot of tension and resistance from those who are believers. It talks a lot about gender identity and sexual identity and how you are born versus what you want to be. This was unfortunately not for me, but it may be for you if you like lyrical proses, then pick this one up. Next is another book that unfortunately started strong, but was also a miss in the end. It's called Wildfire by Deb Allen, and this is another fantasy romance that involves faith, and the magic system itself is very simple. There are those that wield ice, and there are those that wield fire. It started off real strong with a fight scene from our female main character. She was a badass in that and gave us readers a great sense of urgency of deciphering what is real and what isn't based off our female main character's POV. We got a lot of world building like thrown at us, but not enough explanation about them, so you're kind of left with information that is just left hanging. I did give this book 3 stars. Yeah, unfortunately the delivery didn't meet my expectations with how it started. Next, I picked up another sapphic gothic fantasy romance, and it is in fact a retelling of Swan Lake. It's called A Treachery of Swans. I gave this book 3 stars. Now, personally, I love the Barbie version of Swan Lake. Like, that is my childhood right there. So reading this and seeing the similarities between the two, I was reliving my childhood. Even though this is definitely more of a dark, eerie setting, where the world itself is decaying because the people simply refuses to use magic to bring life again. Our main female main character is Odalie. She is indeed the villain, as she likes to call herself. She's very entertaining and always scheming, up to no good, but sometimes, certain times, she fell a little flat. I so badly wanted to love their dynamic, but their chemistry mostly lived off page rather than on page because the author kind of insinuates that they had this great chemistry way back in the past, but doesn't really delve into it. The plot was full of mystery and twists, but not quite enough to carry the story overall. I think this book would have shown more if it were a duology instead of a standalone, because we kind of rushed through it in the ending. The ending felt very open-ended, doesn't really feel satisfying. We're finally down to our last 2 books, with the first one being a dark, gothic, surprise, surprise, romance. It's called The Isle of Sin and Shadows by Carrie Lake. I know, I was overdue in reading another Carrie Lake book because I've only read Nocticadia and Anathema by her, and I love both of them. This book, I gave 4.5 stars. Yeah, The Isle of Sin and Shadows, amazing stuff. Carrie Lake is literally the queen of dark gothic romances. I had literal chills reading this book. The plot is so dark, like please read your trigger warnings, but also it's so interesting and so addicting I couldn't put it down. This one follows our female main character Celeste, who has been running all her life until one day she ends up having to go back into that hometown that caused her a lot of trauma that had her running in the first place. There, she meets our male main character, Thierry Bergeron, who is, by the way, an assassin and is dubbed as the Black Wolf. And bonus, he speaks French. He is feared by everyone, being a cartel assassin slash hitman. As soon as he meets Celeste for the first time, he finds himself gravitating towards her. Like his every waking thought is about this mysterious woman who just came upon their island. And Celeste finds herself equally captivated by his dark and ominous presence as they start to unravel each other physically, mentally, and emotionally. And how their story intertwine? Oof, literal chills. And of course, the plot twist. The plot twist was mind-blowing. I still think about this book every day. ever since I finished it. Lastly, the final book that I read in June is called The Other Brother by Tierney Page. It is indeed a contemporary romance. Unfortunately, I struggled to get through this book. I gave this one 2 stars. I really thought I would enjoy this one because it's an ex-fiance's brother romance. I found a lot of inconsistencies when it comes to the personalities of these characters, especially the female main character. I did not like the time skips. I found it very unnecessary. Now for the romance between April, the female main character, and James, the male main character, aka the brother, also leaned heavily on the physical attraction rather than the chemistry because I could not feel the chemistry between them. It didn't delve deeper than I wanted. Unfortunately, this book was not a fun time for me. And there you have it, besties. Those were all the books that I read in the month of June. It was more misses than hits than I would like, but I'm hopeful for July. If you haven't seen my July TBR, make sure to check it out because I think there will be a couple of them. There will be 5-star reads. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope there were books that you were able to find that you haven't read yet and are wanting to pick up. I hope you do. And I love you guys and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!